Dr. Amara Ellis grips her steering wheel on a Detroit highway, dusk painting the sky, when a police cruiser's siren wails. Officer Kent, face twisted with contempt, drags her from her car, mocking her crisp suit, assuming she's a nobody. His racist slurs sting, handcuffs biting her wrists, but Amara remains poised, her voice steel. "I'm the FBI director." Kent's smirk fades, his radio crackling with confirmation, his badge shaking. Released, Amara drives away, but a cryptic text flashes, "You'll pay." Her defiance will shake Detroit's corrupt core, but what price will she pay? Before we dive into this fight for justice, drop a comment sharing where you're watching from, and if you stand against racist, placing hit like and subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is a must-see showdown. Dr. Amara Ellis sat in her sleek Detroit office, the city's skyline a muted glow through tinted windows, her tailored suit crisp despite the chaos of the previous night. The memory of Officer Kent's racist slurs and the bite of his handcuffs lingered, his stunned face when she revealed her FBI director status a fleeting triumph. The cryptic text, "You'll pay," haunted her, a warning of deeper trouble. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, knew silence wasn't an option. She filed a formal complaint against Kent with the Detroit Police Department, detailing his aggression and demanding his badge. Her deputy, Agent Carla Hayes, stood by her, uploading the report to internal servers, her eyes fierce with support. Amara's fingers tapped her desk, the weight of her title a shield she'd wield to expose systemic rot. She expected pushback, but not the storm that came. Commissioner Victor Slade, a towering figure with a politician's smile, held a press conference that morning, his podium ringed by cameras. "Dr. Ellis is exploiting her position," he declared, voice smooth but venomous, lying about Officer Kent to stir division. "Her claims are baseless." Amara's jaw tightened, watching the broadcast on her laptop, the city's pulse quickening. Outside, Slade's dismissal wasn't just a defense of Kent. It was a challenge to her authority, a racist jab cloaked in officialdom. Before she could respond, her phone erupted with notifications, social media ablaze with a leaked body cam video doctored to show Amara shouting at Kent, her composure twisted into aggression. Hashtags like NuckFBilia and Ellis fraud trended, each post a splinter of hate, accusing her of fabricating the stop to play the victim. Reporters swarmed her office building, their shouts muffled by glass, demanding statements on her deception. Amara's chest constricted, the public's trust hard-earned through years of service crumbling under Slade's lies. She thought of her father, his dignity stolen by a racist cop, and her resolve hardened. She wouldn't let Slade rewrite her truth. She accessed her car's dashcam footage, stored on a secure cloud, its unedited clarity showing Kent's slurs, his hands yanking her from the driver's seat, her calm reveal as FBI director. Carla, tech-savvy and unyielding, helped her upload the video to a public server, sending it to every major news outlet. "This is who we're up against," Amara said, her voice steady, Carla nodding as the file went live. Within hours the narrative flipped, headlines shifting from FBI director lies to Detroit cop's racist assault exposed. The video went viral, millions viewing Kent's hate, his badge now a symbol of shame. Protests erupted in Detroit's streets, crowds marching through downtown, their signs demanding justice for Ellis. Amara stood at her window, the chants a faint hum, her heart swelling with their support. She allowed herself a moment of victory, the dashcam a sword cutting through Slade's deceit. Kent was suspended pending investigation, his career in tatters, a small justice for her father's memory. But as she prepared to address the press, her laptop pinged, an email from the FBI's oversight board stealing her breath. Her security clearance had been suspended, effective immediately, citing instability and public controversy. Amara's knees buckled, the room spinning, her access to federal systems, case files, even her own investigations, severed like a lifeline. The email bore the board's seal, but Amara smelled Slade's influence, his connections a web strangling Detroit's institutions. Without clearance, her authority as director was gutted, her ability to lead the FBI crippled, her career on the brink. She sank into her chair, the skyline blurring, the protesters' chants now a distant echo. Slade hadn't just smeared her. He'd struck at her core, using the system she served to dismantle her power. The dashcam had cleared her name, but this was a deeper cut, a racist retaliation dressed in bureaucracy. She thought of her father, his voice urging her to fight, his wrongful conviction a fire in her soul. Amara's hands clenched. The complaint, she'd filed now a spark in a larger war. Slade thought he'd cornered her, but she'd faced worse, rising from a girl in Detroit's projects to the FBI's helm. She'd find his weak spot, expose his game. But as she called Carla to strategize, her phone buzzed again, a news alert flashing, Ellis's lies spark riots. The protests, her shield, were being spun as chaos, Slade's allies twisting her victory into a trap. Amara's pulse raced, the city's neon lights a cruel mockery. She stood, grabbing her coat, the dashcam footage still trending, but the clearance suspension was a noose tightening. Carla's voice crackled over the line. "We'll fight this, Amara." She nodded, stepping into the elevator, the hum a countdown to battle. The protesters' signs waved below, some now torn, Slade's lies sowing doubt. A young man held up a fist, his eyes meeting hers, a spark of hope. But as she reached her car, a note slipped under the wiper, unsigned, scrawled in haste. "Your brother's next." Amara's blood ran cold, Jamal's face flashing, his teaching job, his kindness, now in Slade's crosshairs. The smear had been a jab, the suspension a body blow. Whatever came next would aim for her heart. She started the engine. Detroit streets a battlefield, the city she loved now a maze of betrayal. Slade thought he'd broken her, but Amara was a strategist, her mind a steel trap. She'd dig into his connections, find the trail to his power, and end this. The war was just beginning, and she'd fight it on her terms. Dr. Amara Ellis leaned over a cluttered conference table in the FBI's Detroit field office, the city's skyline a faint smudge through rain-streaked windows. The suspension of her security clearance, a gut-wrenching blow from Commissioner Victor Slade, still stung, its racist undertones as sharp as Officer Kent's slurs from the highway stop. The note threatening her brother Jamal slipped under her car's wiper, gnawed at her, a chilling echo of the "you'll pay" text. Amara, fueled by her father's wrongful conviction, refused to buckle. She called in Agent Carla Hayes, her deputy, whose sharp mind and loyalty were anchors in this storm. Together, they sifted through police records, their laptops humming, coffee cups piling up. Carla's fingers froze on a file, her voice tight. "Got something." She pulled up financial trails linking Slade to the Detroit Police Union, a racist stronghold funneling bribes to city council members. Amara's pulse quickened, the transactions a web of corruption, payments coded as consulting fees to silence whistleblowers and bury misconduct like Kent's. She thought of Jamal, his gentle smile teaching kids history, now under Slade's shadow. "We take this to the feds," Amara said, her voice steel, Carla nodding as they compiled evidence for a federal oversight board. The plan was clear. Expose Slade's union, demand her clearance back, and tighten the noose around his empire. Amara's heart raced, picturing the board's reaction. Slade squirming under scrutiny. She stood straightening her suit, the weight of her father's memory afire in her chest. The hearing, held in a sterile federal building, buzzed with tension, reporters lining the halls, their cameras a gauntlet. Amara presented the financials, her voice steady, Carla at her side, slides showing the union's bribes in stark numbers. The board, a panel of stern faces, leaned forward, their questions sharp but fair. "This is systemic," Amara said. "Slade's protecting racists like Kent, and I'm the target for calling it out." The room murmured, protesters outside chanting her name, their signs a flicker of hope. The board deliberated, then reinstated her clearance, citing insufficient grounds for suspension. Amara exhaled, the weight lifting, her access to FBI systems restored, her authority reaffirmed. Carla hugged her, the crowd's cheers a roar through the walls, a moment of triumph after Slade's smear. But as they left the building, Amara's phone buzzed, a DOJ alert stealing her breath. She'd been accused of leaking classified data, a fabricated charge claiming she'd shared FBI secrets to destabilize Detroit. The Department of Justice launched an investigation, agents already at her office, their badges glinting with suspicion. Amara's knees buckled, Slade's hand unmistakable, his influence twisting federal power against her. She raced to the field office, Carla at her side, the elevator's hum a countdown to chaos. DOJ investigators grilled her, presenting emails she'd never sent, timestamps forged to damn her. Amara's mind spun, but her training held, her composure a shield. She accessed encrypted server logs, her fingers flying, proving the emails were planted, their metadata inconsistent. Carla stalled the agents, her legal jargon a wall. While Amara sent the logs to the board, who halted the investigation, the charges dismissed. The agents retreated, their faces sour, leaving Amara's office in disarray. She sank into her chair, relief flooding her, but her phone rang before she could exhale. Jamal's voice trembled, his words a punch to her gut. He'd been arrested, charged with drug trafficking, his high school raided by police, desks overturned, books shredded. Amara's hands shook as she drove to Brightmoor, Detroit's neon lights mocking her pain. She arrived to find Jamal's school trashed, its windows smashed, racial slurs scrawled in white paint across the walls, a mirror of Slade's hate. Jamal sat in a patrol car, his tie askew, his eyes red, accused of hiding drugs that were never found. Amara's heart shattered, guilt crashing over her, her clearance restored but her brother's life upended. She posted his bail, Carla already filing motions, but the damage was done. Parents pulled students, Jamal representative, his reputation as a teacher, tainted by headlines linking him to her crimes. Amara stood in the school's wreckage, glass crunching under her heels, the smell of paint choking the air. She thought of her father, his dignity stolen by a racist system, now echoed in Jamal's pain. The crowd outside grew, some offering support, others whispering doubts swayed by Slade's lies. A student slipped her a note, "Keep fighting, Dr. Ellis," a spark in the darkness. Amara clutched it, her resolve hardening, but her phone buzzed, a news ticker flashing. Ellis's brother arrested, FBI chaos. Slade's smear had been a jab, the suspension a blow, but this was a knife to her family, a racist retaliation dressed in law. She helped Jamal board up the school, his hands shaking, his faith in her wavering. Carla's voice crackled over the line, "We'll get him out, Amara." She nodded, stepping into the night, the chants from the hearing now a distant memory. Slade's union was exposed, but his next move would be worse, a blade aimed at her heart. Drop a comment with number 1 if you're outraged by Slade's attack on Jamal, or number 2 if you believe Amara's clearance will save her, and hit like and subscribe to join this fight for truth. What new chaos will Slade unleash to break Amara's family? Dr. Amara Ellis stood on a wooden stage in Detroit's Hart Plaza, the city's skyline a jagged silhouette against a stormy sky, her tailored suit a quiet armor. The vandalism of Jamal's school, its walls scarred with racial slurs, and his false arrest for drug trafficking burned in her chest, piling onto Officer Kent's highway stop and Commissioner Victor Slade's smear campaign. Her reinstated FBI clearance, won through exposing Slade's union bribes, was a hard-fought victory, but the note threatening Jamal had come true, proving Slade's racist wrath knew no bounds. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, organized a rally to expose Slade's corruption, her voice a beacon for Detroit's black community. The plaza swelled with thousands, their signs of vibrant protest chanting "Justice for Ellis." Amara gripped the microphone, her breath steady, the weight of her father's memory a fire in her soul. "Victor Slade's union buys silence," she declared, holding up financial records, bribing officials to protect racists like Kent, to crush us. The crowd roared, her words streaming live, hashtags like "Kaka Slade must fall" trending as millions watched. Reporters ringed the stage, cameras flashing, amplifying her call to the city council for a full investigation. Amara's heart surged, their unity a shield against Slade's lies, the rally a tide she could ride to force accountability. But as she spoke, her phone buzzed, a news alert flashing Slade's face, his voice oily in a public apology. "We regret any misunderstanding with Dr. Ellis," he said, promising reforms, his eyes cold on every screen. Amara's stomach churned, his words a velvet trap, a racist ploy dressed in contrition. She'd seen his kind before, cloaking hate in polished promises. She signaled her team to stay vigilant, sensing Slade's next move lurking in the shadows. Her instincts proved true when the plaza's lights flickered, then died, plunging the rally into darkness. Shouts erupted, followed by the crash of breaking bottles. Masked agitators, Slade's hired thugs, surged through the crowd, hurling bricks, their slurs slicing the air. Amara grabbed a megaphone, urging calm, but police stormed in, batons swinging, blaming her for inciting chaos. Her niece Aisha, Jamal's daughter, stood nearby, her college hoodie soaked in rain, helping guide people to safety. Amara shielded Aisha from a charging officer, her arm bruising under a blow, and led a group through a side street, the city's neon pulsar war zone. Sirens wailed, tear gas clouding the plaza, the rally fracturing into panic. Amara's breath caught as news feeds showed community leaders, faces she'd trusted, denouncing her. "Ellis brought this violence," one said, his voice bought by Slade's bribes, his betrayal a knife deeper than the riot's bricks. The crowd splintered, some turning against her, swayed by the leader's lies. Amara stumbled into an alley, rain stinging her eyes, Aisha's hand in hers, the smell of smoke choking her lungs. Her phone lit up, another blow landing. Aisha had been expelled from Wayne State University, accused of radical activism for attending the rally. Amara's knees buckled, Slade's reach now tearing at her niece's future, her engineering scholarship revoked. Aisha's eyes welled, her dreams of designing bridges shattered by a dean linked to Slade's donors. Amara's guilt was a tidal wave, the rally's triumph now ashes. She drove Aisha to a safe house, pulling protest footage from her team's drones, its unedited clarity showing Aisha helping, not inciting. Carla, her deputy, sent the footage to the university, proving Aisha's innocence. By dawn, the expulsion was reversed, her scholarship restored, a fragile victory snatched from Slade's grip. Amara exhaled, clutching Aisha's hand. But her phone rang, Carla's voice grim. Her mother's community clinic, a haven for Detroit's poor, faced a state audit, its funding frozen for financial irregularities. Amara's vision blurred, the safe house's walls closing in. The clinic, her mother's legacy, built to honor her father's fight. She sped to the clinic, finding her mother, Evelyn, amid patient files, her face lined but fierce, vowing to fight. The audit, pushed by a Slade-allied official, was a racist retaliation, another strike at Amara's family. She stood in the clinic's lobby, its posters of health equity defaced with slurs, a mirror of Jamal's school. The crowd outside grew, some offering support, others shouting doubts, Slade's lies sowing division. A nurse slipped Amara a patient's letter. "You're our voice," a spark in the darkness. Amara clutched it, her resolve hardening, but her phone buzzed, a news ticker flashing. Ellis's rally sparks anarchy. The protests, her strength, were now a weapon against her, Slade's riot a masterstroke. She helped Evelyn secure the clinic, her mother's hands steady despite the audit's threat. Carla's voice crackled, "We'll dig into the auditor, Amara." She nodded, stepping into the rain, the rally's chants a distant echo. Slade's union was cracking, but his next move would be worse, a blade aimed at her core. The city's pulse thrummed, Detroit's heat a suffocating shroud, and Amara wondered how much more her family could bear. Dr. Amara Ellis sat in a dimly lit FBI safe house in Detroit's Corktown. The city's neon pulse a faint glow through boarded windows, her tailored suit creased from days of relentless battle. The audit freezing her mother Evelyn's clinic, its walls defaced with racial slurs, piled onto Aisha's expulsion, Jamal's arrest and the riot that fractured her rally. Slade's racist empire, sparked by Officer Kent's highway stop, had escalated from smears to systemic sabotage, each blow a testament to his power. Amara, fueled by her father's wrongful conviction, clutched a coffee mug, her deputy Carla. Hayes pacing nearby. Agent Ross, her mentor from her early FBI days, had called, his gravelly voice urgent, promising dirt on Commissioner Victor Slade. Ross arrived, his trench coat damp, sliding a folder across the table. Slade's voter suppression, he said, eyes darting. Memos from his union, rigging polls to keep black voters out. Amara opened the folder, pages detailing fake voter ID checks and polling station closures in black neighborhoods. Slade's initials stark. Her jaw clenched, the memos a blueprint of disenfranchisement, a racist plot to choke Detroit's voice. She thought of her father, his dignity stolen by a corrupt cop, and her resolve burned brighter. "We send this to the DOJ," Amara said, Carla nodding, already encrypting the files. They shared the memos with the Department of Justice, Amara's cover letter a call for action, her authority as FBI director a spear. Within days, the DOJ indicted Slade, charging him with election fraud, news anchors dissecting the case, Detroit's streets buzzing with protests, as Slade indicted trending. Amara's heart surged, the indictment a blow she'd landed, a step toward justice for her father's memory. She called Ross, gratitude in her voice, but his tone shifted, cold and sharp. "You trusted too easily, Amara," he said, hanging up. Her stomach dropped, a text from an unknown number flashing, "Check your servers." Amara rushed to her. Laptop, Carla's face paling as FBI systems crashed, case files locked, investigations frozen. Ross had been a mole, feeding Slade her moves, his access a backdoor to sabotage. Amara's chest tightened, betrayal cutting deeper than the riot's bricks, Ross's mentorship a lie woven by Slade's web. She rallied her cybersecurity team, their screens a blur, tracing the sabotage to Ross's credentials. Hours of code, cracking restored access, systems humming again, but the damage was done, cases delayed, agents sidelined. Amara exhaled, the crisis averted, but her phone buzzed, a news alert landing like a sledgehammer. Slade's allies had framed her for embezzlement, claiming she'd siphoned FBI funds, forged bank records showing millions in her name. The accusation, splashed across every outlet, threatened prison, her career now a house of cards. Amara's vision blurred, Slade's escalation a racist masterstroke, turning her own agency against her. She gathered financial audits, her team working through the night, proving every cent was clean, the records planted by Slade's cronies. Carla sent the audits to the DOJ, who dismissed the charges, the media backtracking, Ellis cleared. Trending faintly. Amara stood, relief flooding her, but her phone rang, Evelyn's voice trembling. The exoneration case for Amara's father, a decades-long fight to clear his name, had been dismissed by a Detroit judge, a Slade ally, citing insufficient evidence. Amara's knees buckled, the safe house's shadows swallowing her. Her father's memory, his wrongful conviction now a wound reopened. She drove to Evelyn's apartment, finding her mother clutching old letters, her father's handwriting a ghost. Evelyn's eyes welled, her strength fraying, and Amara's guilt was a storm drowning her. The indictment had hurt Slade, but his betrayal and frame-up proved he'd shatter her past to win. She thought of Aisha, her scholarship barely saved, and Jamal, his teaching career in tatters. The crowd outside grew, some chanting support, others hurling doubts, Slade's lies sowing chaos. A neighbor slipped Amara a photo of her father. He'd be proud, a spark in the dark. Amara clutched it, her resolve hardening, but her phone buzzed, a news ticker flashing. Ellis's fraud sparks DOJ probe. The embezzlement lie lingered, Slade's allies spinning her clearance as proof of corruption. She helped Evelyn sort the letters, her mother's hands trembling, the clinic's audit still looming. Carla's voice crackled, "We'll appeal the dismissal, Amara." She nodded, stepping into the night, the indictment's triumph now a flicker. Slade's next. Move a blade at her throat. Drop a comment with number 1 if you're stunned by Ross's betrayal, or number 2 if you believe Amara can win her father's justice, and hit like and subscribe to stand against Slade's lies. What new horror will Slade's empire unleash to crush Amara's legacy? Dr. Amara Ellis slipped through the shadowed alleys of Detroit's Brightmoor, the city's pulse a distant thrum, her tailored suit swapped for a dark hoodie to blend into the night. The dismissal of her father's exoneration case, a decades, Old wound reopened by a Slade-linked judge, burned in her chest, piling onto Ross's betrayal, the embezzlement frame-up, and the racist slurs scarring her family's lives. Commissioner Victor Slade's war, sparked by Officer Kent's highway, had escalated from smears to sabotage, each blow a testament to his racist empire. Amara, driven by her father's memory, moved silently. A contact's tip leading her to Malik Jones, a whistleblower hiding in Brightmoor's decay. She found him in a crumbling auto shop, its rusted tools glinting under a flickering bulb, the air thick with oil and fear. Malik, lean and wary, clutched a USB drive, his voice low. "Slade's dashcam cover-ups," he said, handing it over. "Records of deleted footage, hiding cop brutality." Amara plugged the drive into her burner laptop, files loading, detailing. Scrubbed videos of racist assaults. Kent's stop among them, Slade's orders clear. Her stomach twisted, the records a map of silenced truths, a racist system protecting its own. She thought of her niece Aisha, her scholarship barely saved, and her mother Evelyn fighting to save her clinic. "We go live," Amara said, her voice firm, Malik nodding, his fear yielding to resolve. They planned a broadcast from a nearby community center, using a hacked signal to bypass Slade's media allies, a chance to reignite Detroit's protests. Amara's pulse raced, the files a weapon to expose Slade's lies, to honor her father's fight. They moved under moonlight. The center's basement a concrete bunker, its walls humming with their mission. Malik set up cameras, Amara testing the feed, but glass shattered above, boots stomping like a storm. Slade's mercenaries, clad in black, stormed in, their eyes cold, rifles gleaming, shouting slurs that echoed Kent's hate. Amara's training kicked in, her body a blur as she tackled Malik behind a table, bullets splintering concrete, the USB drive's files scattering in a hail of sparks. The mercenaries torched the laptop, flames licking the basement, smoke choking the air. Amara fought back, disarming one with a wrench, her blows precise despite a riot bruise flaring, her arms screaming. Malik scrambled, grabbing a single file. Printout, its text partial but damning, Slade's signature stark. Amara shielded him, taking a fist to the jaw, pain exploding. But she dragged him toward a fire exit, the mercenaries' shouts drowned by the blaze. They stumbled into an alley, Amara's lungs burning, blood trickling from a cut on her cheek. The printout, crumpled but legible, listed deleted dashcam dates, enough to spark outrage if broadcast. Amara's hands shook, the paper a flicker of hope, a lifeline from the ashes. She led Malik to a safe house, a boarded tenement in Brightmoor's heart, its walls scarred with faded graffiti. They uploaded the file to an activist channel, the video spreading like wildfire, protests flaring in Detroit's streets, chants of "no more cover-ups" echoing. Amara's chest swelled, a fleeting victory, the city's voice rising against Slade's machine. But as she bandaged her wounds, the safe house's windows exploded, firebombs crashing through, flames roaring, with a fury that matched Slade's hate. Amara grabbed Malik, diving through a back door as the tenement became an inferno, the heat searing her skin. They collapsed in a vacant lot, coughing, the safe house reduced to glowing embers. Amara's phone buzzed, a news alert stealing her breath. Her FBI team, agents she'd led for years, had been suspended, accused of collusion with her criminal actions, their badges stripped by a Slade-allied oversight board. Amara's knees buckled, guilt crashing over her, her team's careers ruined because of her fight. She thought of Carla, her deputy, now sidelined, her loyalty a sacrifice on Slade's altar. Amara led Malik to a new hideout, a shuttered bar, its neon sign long dead. He clutched the printout, his eyes fierce despite the burns on his hands. "We keep going," he said, and Amara nodded, her hoodie soaked, grounding her like her father's memory. The broadcast had hurt Slade, but his firebombs and suspensions proved he'd burn everything to win. She stood, checking the bars. Locks, the city's pulse, a war drum, but a news van outside flashed her face. Ellis's chaos fuels crime. The protests, her hope, were now spun as anarchy, Slade's allies twisting her victory. Amara's fist clenched, the printout in her pocket a fragile truth, but her team's suspension was a wound that wouldn't heal. She thought of Evelyn, Fighting for her clinic and Aisha, her dreams battered. The alley's shadows loomed, a mercenary's silhouette vanishing, Slade's war, a noose tightening. Amara's breath hitched, the broadcast spark fading, and she wondered how much more her team could lose. Dr. Amara Ellis crouched in the shuttered bar's basement, the air thick with dust and desperation, her hoodie damp from Detroit's humid night. The firebombed safehouse, its embers still smoldering, and the suspension of her FBI team accused of collusion, weighed like stones, each a wound from Commissioner Victor Slade's racist war. The partial dashcam file, snatched from his mercenaries, burned in her pocket, its text exposing Slade's cover-ups of police brutality. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, rigged a laptop with Malik Jones, the whistleblower, their faces lit by the screen's glow. Her cheek throbbed from the ambush, but her resolve was iron, fueled by her mother Evelyn's clinic audit and Aisha's stolen dreams. Malik, his burns bandaged, hacked a local news channel's signal, his fingers a blur to bypass Slade's media allies. Amara's heart pounded, the memory of bullets and flames vivid, but this broadcast was their chance to strike back. The feed went live, Amara's voice cutting through static, her eyes fierce. "Slade hides the truth," she said, holding up. The printout, Slade's signature stark. Deleted dashcams, buried assaults protecting racists like Kent. Malik zoomed in, the dates undeniable, and social media erupted. No cover-ups trending as protests flared in Brightmoor, downtown beyond. Crowds chanted, "Ellis leads," their signs a wall of defiance, the DOJ expanding its probe into Slade's union. Amara's chest swelled, the city's rage a tide lifting her, a fleeting triumph after weeks of loss. Malik gripped her arm, his nod a silent vow, but their victory was slashed. News tickers flashed. Slade declared a city emergency, blaming Amara's broadcast for terrorism. Riot police flooded Detroit streets, tear gas clouding protests, the city's pulse a war drum. Then the bar's lights died, Detroit plunging into darkness as Slade's allies shut down the power grid. Amara's breath caught, the laptops, battery their lifeline, protesters stranded, phones dead, chaos spreading. Slade's move was a guillotine, turning her rally into a trap, painting her as a danger to the city she served. Amara's mind raced, her FBI training a beacon. She called Zoe, a tech ally from her academy days, who worked at a power substation. "Can you reroute the grid?" Amara asked, voice urgent. Zoe, risking her badge, patched into a backup system, her voice crackling. "You're in debt, Ellis." Hours later, lights flickered on, protesters regrouping, their chants louder. Amara exhaled, the city breathing, her quick thinking saving the movement. She hugged Malik, their broadcast still, trending Slade's cover-ups, now national news. But as they packed the laptop, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Check Aisha's college." Her blood ran cold, Aisha's face flashing, her scholarship barely saved. Amara sped to Wayne State University, the skyline a blur, and found police tape around a dorm, a duffel bag inside, wires protruding. Explosives planted by Slade's team, set to detonate during a student meeting. Amara's knees buckled, Aisha's engineering dreams now a target, Slade's hate cancer spreading. She called a bomb squad contact, Agent Lynn, who guided her through disarming the device, her hands steady, sweat beading as she cut the blue wire, the timer freezing at 5 seconds. Students cheered, their relief a fragile thread, but Amara's victory was hollow. As police cleared the scene, her phone rang, Jamal's voice trembling. His home had been raided, his teaching license revoked by a Slade-allied board, citing criminal associations. Amara's hands shook, speeding to Brightmoor, the city's neon a cruel mockery. She found Jamal's house trashed, photos of their father torn, racial slurs scrawled on walls echoing the school's vandalism. Jamal stood amid the wreckage, his eyes hollow, his career as a history teacher shattered. Amara's guilt crashed over her, the broadcast's triumph now dust. She hugged him, promising to fight, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. The protests raged outside, the DOJ's probe tightening, but Slade's blackout and bombs proved he'd risk lives to win. She thought of her father, his conviction a wound, and Evelyn battling for her clinic. The file had hurt Slade, but his retaliation was a hurricane, tearing at her family, her team, her soul. Amara stood, checking the bar's locks. The city's pulse a battle cry, but a news van flashed her face. Ellis's terror sparks crisis. The protests, her strength, were now a weapon against her, Slade's allies spinning her as chaos. She clutched the printout, its truth a fragile hope, but Jamal's loss was a scar that wouldn't heal. The bar's shadows loomed, a mercenary's, glint vanishing, Slade's wore a noose tightening. Drop a comment with number 1 if you're enraged by Slade's bombs, or number 2 if you think Amara's broadcast will end his reign, and hit like and subscribe to stand against his corruption. What new devastation will Slade unleash to shatter Amara's fight? Dr. Amara Ellis hunched over a battered laptop in a derelict Detroit warehouse. The city's humid night seeping through cracked walls, her hoodie a shield against the chill. The raid on Jamal's home, its walls scarred with racial slurs, and the revocation of his teaching license piled onto Aisha's college bombing scare, Evelyn's clinic audit, and the racist war sparked by Officer Kent's highway stop. Commissioner Victor Slade's empire, shaken by Amara's broadcast exposing his dashcam cover-ups, struck back with a citywide blackout and explosives, each blow a testament to his hate. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, worked with Zoe, her tech ally who'd saved Detroit's grid. Zoe's fingers flew across keys, hacking Slade's personal emails, the screen flickering with a goldmine, messages tying him to the Michigan White Sentinels, a racist militia plotting voter intimidation and black community raids. Amara's jaw clenched, the emails a venomous thread, detailing funds for weapons and Slade's orders to cleanse Detroit. She thought of her niece Aisha, her scholarship a fragile win, and her mother Evelyn fighting for her clinic. "This nails him," Amara said, voice low, Zoe nodding as they packaged the emails for the FBI and CNN. The leak hit at dawn, headlines, screaming Slade funds militia, federal agents arresting militia leaders, their compounds raided. Protests swelled, Detroit streets a river of signs, Slade's indictment now a federal firestorm. Amara's heart surged, the arrests a dagger in Slade's empire, a victory clawed from his grip. But as she and Zoe shared a weary high-five, her phone buzzed, a video call from an unknown number. Evelyn's face appeared, gagged, eyes wide with fear, a rusted factory's beams behind her. A masked figure held a gun to her temple, Slade's voice cold through a modulator. "Surrender the email server, Ellis, or she's dead." Amara's breath stopped, the laptop slipping, Zoe's face paling. Amara's training held, her voice steady as she agreed, grabbing the server's hard drive. She drove to the factory, Detroit's skyline a taunting shimmer, the bioweapons ache a faint echo. The exchange was a trap, Slade's mercenaries waiting, their slurs cutting as they beat her, bruising her ribs. Evelyn screamed, her arm slashed when Amara hesitated. Amara tossed the drive, its circuits shattering, but Slade reneged, his men dragging Evelyn away. Amara roared, adrenaline surging, disarming a mercenary with a pipe, her blows fierce despite the pain in her chest. She chased them to a loading bay, freeing Evelyn from a crate, her wound bleeding but not fatal. They stumbled into a backlot, sirens closing in, Evelyn's sobs a knife in Amara's soul. Amara bandaged her arm with her sleeve, guilt choking her, Evelyn's safety a fleeting win. But as they hid in a motel, a news alert flashed. Detroit's water supply was poisoned, a toxin traced to a Slade-linked lab, his team blaming Amara's terrorism. Panic gripped the city, hospitals flooding, protests branded as chaos. Amara's stomach churned, Slade's escalation a near-genocidal strike, twisting her fight into a public health nightmare. She called Dr. Lena Patel, a chemist friend at Wayne State, who analyzed water samples, pinpointing the toxin's source to a militia stockpile. Lena synthesized an antidote, Amara coordinating with city officials to distribute it through emergency channels. By nightfall, the water was safe, the crisis averted, but Amara's relief shattered. Her phone lit up with an email from an FBI oversight board revealing Carla, her deputy, had been bribed by Slade's allies, leaking case files to discredit Amara's investigations. Amara's knees buckled, the motel's peeling walls closing in. Carla's loyalty, her anchor, now a lie. She stood, helping Evelyn to a new safe house. Her mother's eyes fierce despite the pain, her strength a mirror of Amara's father. The city's pulse thrummed, protests still raging, but Carla's betrayal turned allies away, her team fractured. Amara thought of her father, his conviction a wound, and Aisha, her dreams battered. The emails had crushed Slade's allies, but his kidnapping and poisoning proved he'd destroy lives to win. She checked the safe house's locks, the factory's rusted beams haunting her, Evelyn's sobs echoing. A news van idled outside, its reporter shouting, "Dr. Ellis, are you a hero or a poisoner?" Amara ignored her, spotting a shadow vanish, a mercenary's glint. Slade's war was a hydra, his mercenaries a step behind. She clutched Evelyn's hand, promising protection, but Carla's betrayal was a scar that wouldn't heal. The FBI's raids continued, Slade's indictment tightening, but his poison lingered, a warning of worse to come. Amara stood, planning her next move, but a text arrived, unsigned, chilling. "Your niece is next." Her heart stopped, Aisha's face flashing, Slade's blade unrelenting. The safe house's walls creaked, Detroit's heat a suffocating shroud, and Amara wondered how much more her family could lose. Dr. Amara Ellis knelt in the dim sanctuary of a Detroit mosque, the city's humid night pressing against stained glass windows, her hoodie a cloak against the shadows. Carla's betrayal, leaking FBI files for Slade's bribes, cut deeper than the water poisoning, Evelyn's kidnapping, or the racist slurs scarring her family's lives. Commissioner Victor Slade's war, sparked by Officer Kent's highway stop, had escalated from smears to militias, each blow a testament to his hate. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, clutched a stolen hard drive, its encrypted ledgers Slade's financial secrets. Her ribs ached from the factory fight, but her resolve burned, fueled by Aisha's battered dreams and Jamal's shattered career. The mosque's quiet was a fragile shield, its prayer rugs grounding her as she decoded the ledgers, lines of transactions revealing Slade's plan to rig Detroit's mayoral election. Emails showed bribes to election officials, fake ballots, and Slade's orders to secure a loyal mayor. Amara's jaw clenched, the ledgers a blueprint of stolen democracy, a racist plot to silence black votes. She thought of her mother Evelyn, fighting for her clinic, and her father, his conviction, a wound. "We leak this," Amara said to herself, encrypting the files for the DOJ and a trusted journalist. The ledgers hit the internet by noon, headlines screaming Slade rigs election, DOJ agents raiding his allies' offices, their arrests a thunderclap. Protests surged, Detroit's streets a sea of signs, Slade's indictment now a federal inferno. Amara's heart surged, the raid a blow she'd landed from hiding, a flicker of hope after weeks of loss. She agreed to speak at a community rally, her voice needed to fuel the fire. The rally, held in Grand Circus Park, drew thousands. Their chants "Down with Slade" shaking the air, signs waving like a forest. Amara took the stage, her hoodie swapped for a blazer, her voice booming. "Slade steals our votes," she said, "but we're taking back our city." The crowd roared, their unity a lifeline. But as she raised a fist, a crack split the night, pain searing her arm. Blood bloomed, protesters screaming as Amara fell, a sniper's bullet grazing her bicep. Chaos erupted, police charging, the crowd scattering. Amara crawled behind a barricade, her training holding, her vision sharp despite the pain. She spotted the sniper's perch, a rooftop across the park, and texted Agent Lynn, her bomb squad ally, pinpointing the location. The sniper, caught, was a Slade-hired gun, his phone revealing texts from a Union shell company. Amara, patched by medics, leaked the texts to the press, tying the hit to Slade. The news exploded, Slade's assassination plot trending, his empire crumbling further. Amara stood, the crowd's cheers a pulse, her survival a defiance of Slade's aim. She thought she'd turned the tide, But her phone buzzed, a news alert stealing her breath. Detroit's transit system had been hacked. Buses stalled. Trains derailed, crashes killing dozens. Slade's team blaming Amara's cyber-terrorism. The city turned, neighbors who'd rallied now glaring, their trust shattered. Amara's chest tightened, Slade's escalation a masterstroke, twisting her speech into a citywide tragedy. She called Zoe, her tech ally, who traced the hack to a Slade-linked server. Working from the mosque, Amara and Zoe rerouted transit, controls through a backup system, buses moving by dawn, crashes halting. Amara exhaled, the city flowing, but the damage was done, headlines branding her a pariah. As she bandaged her arm, a call from Evelyn shattered her fragile calm. The state had shut down her mother's clinic, citing health violations, a lie pushed by a Slade-allied inspector. Amara's knees buckled, the mosque's shadows swallowing her. The clinic, Evelyn's legacy, now a casualty of Slade's war. She drove to the clinic, finding Evelyn amid packed boxes, her eyes fierce but weary, her patience gone. Amara's guilt was a maelstrom, drowning her, the rally's triumph now rubble. She hugged Evelyn, promising to fight, but the clinic's shuttered doors, defaced with slurs, echoed Jamal's school, Aisha's college. The crowd outside dwindled, some offering support, others shouting blame, Slade's lies sowing chaos. A patient slipped Amara a card. "You're our strength, a spark in the dark." Amara clutched it, her resolve hardening, but her phone flashed. "Ellis's cyber attack kills." The transit hack lingered, Slade's allies spinning her as a menace. She helped Evelyn load the boxes, her mother's hands steady despite the loss. Zoe's voice crackled. "We'll trace the inspector, Amara." She nodded, stepping into the night, the ledger's blow fading. Slade's next move, a guillotine. Drop a comment with number 1 if you're shocked by Slade's sniper, or number 2 if you think the clinic's loss will break Amara, and hit like and subscribe to stand against his tyranny. What new treachery will Slade's empire unleash to crush Amara's resolve? Dr. Amara Ellis stood in a shadowed Detroit loft, the city's neon glow seeping through cracked blinds. Her blazer creased from days of relentless battle. The shutdown of her mother Evelyn's clinic, its doors locked for fabricated health violations, piled onto the transit hack, the sniper's bullet grazing her arm, and the racist slurs scarring her family's lives. Commissioner Victor Slade's war, sparked by Officer Kent's highway stop, had escalated from smears to assassination attempts, each blow a testament to his hate. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, clutched a burner phone, her arm still bandaged, her resolve afire unquenched. A new ally, Councilwoman Lena Carter, a rogue voice on Detroit's council, had reached out, sickened by Slade's corruption. They met in the loft, its bare walls echoing Amara's fatigue, Lena's silver braid glinting as she handed over a flash drive. "Slade's offshore accounts," she said, voice low, "millions hidden to fund his union, his militia." Amara plugged it in, spreadsheets glowing, transactions tying Slade to illegal bribes, a financial fortress shielding his empire. Her jaw clenched, the evidence a spear to pierce his armor, a chance to strike at his core. She thought of her niece, Aisha, her scholarship a fragile win, and her brother Jamal, his teaching career stolen. "We file a lawsuit," Amara said, Lena nodding, her eyes fierce. They worked with Agent Lynn, Amara's bomb squad ally, to draft a federal lawsuit, alleging Slade's fraud and racist policies, the flash drive's data their cornerstone. The suit hit the courts like a lightning bolt, suspending Slade's authority. As police commissioner, halting his operations, news anchors dissected the case, Detroit's protests swelling, the public cheering Amara, their signs reading, "Ellis fights back." Her chest swelled, the lawsuit a victory snatched from Slade's, jaws a beacon for her battered family. But as she left the courthouse, a news alert flashed. Lena had been framed for bribery, accused of taking kickbacks from developers, doctored bank records tying her to Slade's allies. The public turned, their cheers fading. The lawsuit now, tainted by Lena's corruption. Amara's stomach churned, Slade's hand unmistakable, his lies a scalpel cutting her allies. She rushed to Lena's office, finding her packing, her face ashen. "I'm finished," Lena said, but Amara convinced her to stay, promising to clear her name. That night, her phone buzzed, a video showing her family archive, a storage unit holding her father's case files engulfed in flames. Amara sped to the site. Detroit's sky choked with smoke, firefighters battling the blaze. Neighbors gathered, their faces lit by the inferno, whispering Slade's name. Amara's knees buckled, the archive her father's legacy, his trial notes, his letters, now ash. She stumbled through the wreckage, soot staining her hands, and found a hidden USB buried in a fireproof box, its backup data intact, detailing Slade's accounts. Amara clutched it, a lifeline salvaged from ruin, but her relief was shattered. As she drove away, her office's security feed pinged, showing gas canisters rigged in her FBI suite, a toxic cloud seeping. She raced to the building, evacuating. Staff, but the gas grazed her lungs, her vision blurring. Firefighters contained the leak, her quick call saving lives. But the attack was Slade's, his mercenaries' silhouettes vanishing into the night, their slurs echoing in the smoke. Amara's breath ragged, she limped to a safe house, blood seeping through her bandage, the USB safe in her pocket. But her phone lit up, a final blow landing. Her FBI team, already suspended, had their pensions cancelled, the government citing her association with a disgraced director, her name. Amara's vision darkened, the safe house's bare walls closing in, her team's futures, their years of service, stripped by Slade's racist retaliation. She thought of Carla, her betrayed deputy, and Zoe, her tech ally, their risks now endangering their lives. The lawsuit had halted Slade's power, a strike she'd landed, but his arson and gas proved he'd burn her past to bury her. She sat, the USB heavy in her hand, her father's voice a faint echo, urging her to stand. The fire's heat lingered, the gas's sting in her throat, but her team's loss, Aisha's pain, Jamal's ruin, were wounds that wouldn't heal. She called Lynn, his voice steady, already digging into Lena's frame-up, but Amara knew Slade's next move would be worse. The city's pulse thrummed, protests still raging, but the pension cancellations turned allies away, their trust fractured. She stood clutching the USB, its data a fragile hope, but a news van trailed her, its reporter shouting, "Dr. Ellis, are you worth this chaos?" Amara ignored her, spotting a glint in the shadows, a mercenary's scope. Slade's war was a hydra, each head more lethal, his mercenaries a step behind. She moved into the night, the USB her shield, but the glint lingered, a promise of blood to come. Dr. Amara Ellis crept through the dimly lit corridors of Detroit's Central Precinct, the air thick with the tang of ink and stale coffee, her hoodie a shroud against the flickering security cameras. The gas attack on her FBI office, the burning of her father's archive, and the cancellation of her team's pensions weighed like iron, each a wound from Commissioner Victor Slade's racist war. The federal lawsuit, fueled by Lena's offshore account evidence, had suspended Slade's authority, but his relentless retaliation proved he'd destroy her legacy to win. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, clutched a hidden recorder, her arm still bandaged from the sniper's graze, her lungs raw from the gas. The USB with backup data, salvaged from the fire, burned in her pocket, her plan to record Slade's confession a desperate gambit to end his reign. She'd bribed a janitor, slipping into a maintenance duct, her movements silent, the precinct's hum a countdown to danger. Amara reached Slade's office, its oak door ajar, and planted the recorder under a file cabinet, its mic primed to catch every word. Slade entered, his frame looming, speaking to a deputy, oblivious to her presence. "I orchestrated Ellis's stop," he admitted, voice cold. "Kent was my tool to break her, to keep her kind in line." Amara's blood boiled, the confession a torch, tying Slade to Kent's racist assault and her family's suffering. She crouched behind a bookshelf, heart hammering, but a guard's flashlight swept the room, catching her reflection in a glass frame. Alarms shrieked, security swarming, their boots a war drum. Amara fought, elbows cracking ribs, but a guard jabbed her with a syringe, a bioweapon from a Slade-linked lab flooding her veins. Her vision swam, fever spiking, limbs heavy as stone. Slade's face loomed, his sneer venomous. "You're done, Ellis," he hissed, his guards dragging her to a holding cell. Amara's mind reeled, delirium creeping, but her training held, her fingers clutching the recorder. She broke free, kneeing a guard, and stumbled to a server closet, its buzz a lifeline. Fighting nausea, she uploaded the recording to a global activist network, the file racing online as her body faltered. The video went viral, Slade's confession trending. Slade exposed, igniting protests worldwide, his indictment now a death knell for his empire. Amara collapsed, sweat soaking her hoodie, the bioweapon searing her insides. But medics found her, their antidote stabilizing her, her survival a defiance of Slade's poison. She staggered to a safe house, her breath ragged, the recording's impact a spark in the dark. But as she bandaged her arm, a news alert shattered her fragile hope. Slade's team had staged a prison riot at Detroit's county jail. Inmates clashing, guards overwhelmed, claiming Amara's terrorism incited it. The city froze, SWAT teams circling, the public blaming her, their hero's name now mud. Amara's chest tightened, Slade's escalation a masterstroke, twisting her confession into a citywide crisis. She called Agent Lynn, her bomb squad ally, who rallied loyal FBI agents. Amara infiltrated the jail through a service tunnel, her body weak but her mind sharp. Coordinating with Lynn to subdue riot leaders, she freed trapped guards, her commands cutting through the chaos, and signaled Lynn, who stormed in, neutralizing the riot. Inmates calmed, their shouts fading, but Amara's victory was hollow. As she left the jail, her phone buzzed, a leaked health record spreading online, branding her a biohazard. Slade's allies had hacked her medical files, twisting the bioweapons infection into a lie that she carried a deadly plague. Detroit turned, neighbors who'd protested with her now shunning her, their fear fueled by Slade's deceit. Amara's knees buckled, the safe house's concrete walls closing in, the city's pulse a cruel mockery. She thought of Aisha, caged by Slade's lies, and Jamal, his home ruined, their sacrifices a litany of pain. The confession had crushed Slade's power, his empire teetering, but his riot and health leak proved he'd risk lives to win. Amara stood, checking the USB, its data a fragile hope, but the public's scorn was a wound that wouldn't heal. She called Lynn, his voice grim, fighting for her team's pensions, but the health leak tainted their efforts. The city's neon buzzed outside, protests fading, the precinct's oak door a distant memory of her bold stand. She thought of her father, his conviction a scar, and Evelyn, her clinic lost. A news van circled, its reporter shouting, "Dr. Ellis, are you a danger to Detroit?" Amara ignored her, spotting a glint in the shadows, a mercenary's silhouette. Slade's war was a hydra, his lies a noose tightening. She clutched the USB, its data spent, but its weight a reminder of her fight. The safe house's clock ticked, Detroit's heat a suffocating shroud, and Amara wondered if she could outrun Slade's next strike. Her family's pain, her city's betrayal, now joined by a label that made her untouchable, a pariah in the city she'd sworn to protect. Dr. Amara Ellis staggered through Detroit's rain-slicked streets, the bioweapons fever clawing at her bones, her hoodie soaked but steadfast, a shield in the storm. The viral confession, exposing Victor Slade's orchestration of her traffic stop had ignited global outrage, his indictment a hammer blow to his racist empire. But his prison riot and health record leak, branding her a biohazard, turned neighbors into foes, piling onto Evelyn's lost clinic, Aisha's caged dreams, and Jamal's ruined career. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, clutched a second USB, its data a recording of Slade's militia ties, salvaged from her archive's ashes. Her arm throbbed from the sniper's graze, her lungs raw from gas, but her resolve burned, fueled by her father's memory. Her phone buzzed, a distorted video call showing Aisha, bound in a chair, her eyes wide with terror, and abandoned factories, rusted beams behind her. Slade's voice, unmasked and icy, crackled through, "Come alone, Ellis, or she's gone." Amara's heart seized, the text about Aisha now a reality, Slade's cruelty a blade at her family's core. She grabbed the USB, its militia evidence a final strike, and drove to the factory, Detroit's skyline a jagged mirage. The bioweapon weakened her, vision blurring, but her FBI training held, each step a defiance of Slade's poison. The factory loomed, its cracked concrete trembling underfoot, machinery groaning like ghosts. Slade's guards, hulking shadows, patrolled with rifles, their slurs cutting through the rain, echoing Kent's hate. Amara slipped through a shattered window. Moving through dust and decay, her body aching but silent, she outwitted a guard, disarming him with a chokehold, and stole his radio, hearing their plan to kill Aisha once Amara appeared. Her blood roared, but she stayed focused, planting the USB in a waterproof case, ready to broadcast if she fell. She crept into the main hall, spotting Aisha, her college hoodie torn, her eyes fierce despite her bonds. Slade stood nearby, his sneer venomous, a detonator in his grip. Amara lunged, tackling a guard, her fists snapping bone, but the bioweapon slowed her, another's boot slamming her ribs. Aisha screamed, her voice fueling Amara, who broke free, snapping a guard's wrist, freeing Aisha with a scavenged knife. They ran, Slade's shouts echoing, his guards in pursuit. Amara shielded Aisha, bullets grazing her leg, and led her to a loading dock, a rusted truck's engine sputtering to life. They escaped, the factory shrinking, but Slade's detonator clicked, a blast rocking Detroit's core. A community center miles away erupted in flames, the explosion killing dozens. Its live stream cut to black. Amara's knees buckled, the truck swerving, Aisha's sobs a dagger in her soul. News alerts flashed, blaming her for the bombing. Ellis's terror trending, Slade's lies painting her as Detroit's scourge. Her vision darkened, guilt crashing over her. The center's youth programs, a haven she'd championed, now rubble because of her fight. She parked at a safe house, helping Aisha inside, her leg bleeding but steady, her strength a mirror of Evelyn's. The USB, safe in her pocket, held the second recording, detailing Slade's militia orders, attacks on black voters, funded by his accounts. Amara hacked a TV station's signal from the safe house, broadcasting the recording to millions, her voice raw but unyielding. "Slade's militia burns our homes," she said, names and orders scrolling. "This is his empire, built on our pain." The world reeled, protests surging, the DOJ raiding Slade's network, their arrests a victory hymn. Detroit's streets roared, crowds chanting "Ellis clears," her name restored, the bombing pinned on Slade. The DOJ found his safe house, empty, a taunting note left behind. "You'll never win, Ellis." Amara's breath hitched, Slade's escape a chilling vow, his militia still lurking. She sat with Aisha, her hand frail but warm, her courage a beacon. The safe house's walls creaked, Detroit's rain a relentless drum, the bioweapon's ache, a reminder of Slade's cruelty. She thought of her father, his conviction a wound, and Jamal, his home, trashed. The recording had crushed Slade's network, his empire in ruins, but his note was a shadow, his mercenaries hunting. The city's pulse thrummed, protests now a tide of hope, but the media's blame had fractured trust, some still whispering biohazard. A news van circled, its reporter shouting, "Dr. Ellis, are you Detroit's savior or its doom?" Amara ignored her, spotting a glint in the shadows, a mercenary's scope. Slade's war was a hydra, his escape a new head, his note a promise of vengeance. She clutched Aisha's hand, promising safety, but the bombing's toll was a scar on her soul. The DOJ's raids continued, Slade's allies falling, but his note burned, a warning of worse to come. Amara stood, checking the safe house's locks, Aisha's safety her anchor, but a text arrived unsigned, chilling, "Your mother's next." Her heart stopped, Evelyn's face flashing, Slade's blade unrelenting. The safe house's clock ticked, Detroit's heat a suffocating shroud, and Amara wondered if she could outrun his final strike. Dr. Amara Ellis stood on a vibrant stage in Detroit's Campus Martius Park, the city's skyline, a radiant backdrop under a blazing noon sun, her blazer crisp despite weeks of battle. The scars of Commissioner Victor Slade's racist war weighed, heavy. Evelyn's kidnapped ordeal, Aisha's abduction, Jamal's ruined career, Her teams lost pensions, and the community center's ashes, where dozens perished in Slade's bombing. The second recording, exposing his militia ties, had shattered his empire. The DOJ's raids dismantling his network, but his escape and taunting note, "You'll never win, Ellis," cast a long shadow. Amara, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, had recovered from the bioweapons fever, her wealth restored through legal battles, her resolve a beacon. She'd launched the Ellis Justice Foundation, channeling millions to reform policing, funding training, oversight, and community programs to root out systemic racism. The rally, organized to unveil the foundation, drew thousands, their signs a tapestry of hope chanting Ellis reforms in a thunderous wave. Amara gripped the microphone, her arms bandage hidden, her voice steady, the weight of her father's memory a fire in her soul. "Slade's empire fell because we fought," she began, her eyes sweeping the crowd, "but racism lives in systems, in silence. This foundation honors my father, wrongfully convicted, and every soul Slade tried to break. We'll rebuild policing, make it fair, make it ours." The crowd erupted, fists raised, their unity a fortress against the pain of her losses. She spoke of the center's victims, naming each, their memory a vow, and of Aisha, now back in college, her engineering dreams revived. Evelyn stood beside her, her clinic's fight ongoing, her smile fierce, Jamal in the front row, his teaching license under appeal, his strength a mirror of their father's. Amara's heart swelled. The Foundation's first initiative, a police accountability board already forming, its charter a promise of change. Reporters packed the sidelines, cameras flashing, the rally streaming live, millions watching as Detroit reclaimed its voice. She thought of Kent's highway stop, his slurs a spark that ignited this revolution, and the cryptic texts, each a step in Slade's war. The crowd's energy was a tidal wave, their hope lifting her. But as she paused to honor her team, her phone buzzed, a news alert stealing her breath. A leaked memo, traced to an anonymous source, revealed Amara had been secretly appointed Attorney General, a federal move to dismantle Slade's lingering network. Gasps rippled through the crowd, murmurs swelling, some cheering, others whispering doubt, the weight of her new power a shockwave. Amara's pulse raced, the appointment a guarded secret, negotiated in closed-door meetings with the president, a chance to reshape justice nationwide. She stepped back to the microphone, her voice cutting through the chaos. "It's true," she said, eyes steady. "I've been named Attorney General to fight corruption like Slade's, to transform Detroit's police into a model of equity, to ensure no one faces what I did on that highway." The crowd roared, their cheers shaking the stage, signs soaring, "Ellis for Justice," trending online. Amara's chest tightened, the twist of victory she'd orchestrated, but the leaks, timing felt off, Slade's shadow lurking. She outlined her vision, new training protocols, community-led oversight, and federal probes into racist policing, all funded by her foundation's grants. The rally ended with music, drums pulsing, the crowd dancing, their joy a defiance of Slade's hate. Amara hugged Evelyn, her tears warm, Jamal's nod a silent vow, Aisha beaming beside them. She felt her father's presence, his dream alive in this moment. But as she stepped off stage, her laptop pinged, a text from an encrypted number slicing through her triumph. Her blood chilled, the message stark. "You're not safe, Ellis. We're watching." The sender, signed S.A., hinted at Slade's ally, a remnant of his militia or union, plotting a new conspiracy. Amara's breath hitched, Slade's escape now a looming threat, his network a hydra regrowing heads. She forwarded the text to Agent Lynn, her bomb squad ally, who was tracking Slade's allies, but his voice was grim, the leak complicating their hunt. The rally's victory was ablaze, but the text was a frost, its words a promise of vengeance. Amara walked through the crowd, their hands clasping hers, a young boy slipping her a drawing of a badge, "For your dad," scrawled in marker. She clutched it, her resolve hardening, but the text's weight was a chain in her gut. The Foundation's work had begun, the police reforms filed, but Slade's allies were phantoms, their influence a web she'd only begun to unravel. She thought of the community center's rubble, its victims' names etched in her mind, and Aisha safe but marked by Slade's cruelty. The Attorney General appointment was her checkmate, turning her from a highway victim to the nation's justice arbiter, but the text suggested a counterstrike, a new war brewing. She stood at the rally's edge, Detroit's skyline a glittering paradox, beauty cloaking betrayal. Protests had calmed, the city healing, but Slade's note from the safe house, now this text, proved his hate endured. A news van idled, its reporter shouting, "Dr. Ellis, can you reform a broken system?" Amara ignored her, spotting a shadow vanish, a mercenary's glint. Slade's war was unending, his allies a storm on the horizon, their power a threat to her triumph. She thought of her father, his dream now a foundation, a badge, a city rising. But the text's words echoed, "We're watching." She walked to her car, the rally's drums fading, Detroit's heat a suffocating embrace. The highway stop slurs flashed in her mind, a spark now a fire she'd fanned. She'd crushed Slade's empire, saved Aisha, cleared her name, but his escape was a wound that wouldn't heal. The crowd's cheers lingered, their hope a shield, but the text was a blade, promising more loss. She drove to the safe house, checking on Evelyn, her strength a mirror of her own, but another text arrived, unsigned, chilling, "Your brother's not safe." Amara's heart stopped, Jamal's face flashing, Slade's war a noose tightening. The Scales of Justice offers profound lessons through Dr. Amara Ellis's battle against systemic racism, embodied by Commissioner Victor Slade's corrupt empire. First, resilience is power. Amara, a black FBI director, faces racist police, aggression, smears, and bioweapons, yet her unwavering spirit, driven by her father's wrongful conviction, transforms pain into reform. Her journey shows that enduring injustice with resolve can spark systemic change. Second, exposing truth is vital. Amara's leaks, from voter suppression to militia ties, reveal how racist systems thrive in secrecy, urging us to challenge silence with evidence. Her victories, like the Attorney General appointment, prove strategic action can dismantle oppression. Third, community fuels resistance. Despite betrayals, Detroit's black community rallies behind Amara, their unity a bulwark against Slade's, lies highlighting collective strength in fighting racist injustice. Fourth, sacrifice is the cost of justice. Amara's losses, her family's safety, her team's pensions, her father's case, underscore the personal toll of battling racism, yet her foundation's rise shows sacrifice births hope. Finally, vigilance is eternal. Slade's escape and cryptic text warn that racist networks persist, demanding constant readiness. Amara's story inspires us to reform systems, like her equitable police model, and stay alert to hidden threats. Which lesson from Amara's fight against racist corruption hits you hardest? Comment with number 1 for resilience, 2 for community, or 3 for vigilance, and share how you'll confront injustice. Like, subscribe, and share to amplify this story of justice. Thank you for joining us. Here's to a future where equity triumphs over hate.